I want to call the meeting to order. Before we start, I'd like to recognize Cindy Nava, our senator. And she has promised to make a couple of comments. And Kathleen Cates is online, representative for our area.
Yes, I'm stuck on Alameda right now, but thank you very much.
Oh, are you driving?
I'm on Alameda right now, yes.
Okay, sorry. Okay. I'd like to call it the meeting to order tonight, the regular meeting of the Village of Krause governing body. Please put your phones on vibrate or turn them off. And once you've done that, stand and join me with the pledge for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilor Mira.
Here.
Councilor Woolman.
Here.
Councilor Knight.
Here.
Councilor Burkett.
Here.
Councilor Murray.
Here.
Councilor Alsobrook. Not yet?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Oh, and of course, the mayor's here. So I need a motion to approve the agenda. Yeah, we've already changed that.
So moved.
So I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're going to move on at this point to emergency preparedness presentation by Fire Chief Anthony Martinez and Deputy Chief Tanya Lawton. Is Tanya online?
She is.
Okay.
Get it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, so we've asked our first responders here tonight to give you a view from their perspective of the village based upon what we've seen in California this last week. And we work with them and get briefings from them on a regular basis as to how they would handle various situations as they come into being. But considering the sadness and considering the concern that is still going on in California, we thought it would be appropriate for Anthony, Tanya, and Vic to go forward with how they look at situations like that. One of the things that has come into national discussions, we've seen it here in the village, the cause of fires and things going forward like that is what's been called an insurance desert. Those of you who live here in Corrales recognize the fact that when you're getting home insurance, oftentimes they ask you about your proximity to a fire hydrant. And we are continuing to build that system out. Anthony works on that, I would say, almost 24/7 as he goes forward. We look at our capital projects. And if you look at our capital or ICIP as we go forward, as you voted on them, you'll see that if you look at the top 15, a good majority of those projects have to do with fire suppression and also have to do with public safety in the form of police cars and other things like that. So it was with that in mind that we thought we would have them give a presentation. Of course, you'll be able to ask questions of them after they give or during the presentation. But that's the reason we're here tonight. It's an important issue. It's an important issue to Corrales. I have two folks that I visited with in the last week who have not been able to get insurance on their homes here in Corrales, and they've had to go and find them in other places. I have also associates and friends in Santa Fe who live in the hills and also struggling to get insurance. So this sort of preparation, emergency preparedness that we're talking about affects everyone in the village. So Anthony, if you'd like to kick us off, thank you.
Okay, Mayor, Ron, Council, thank you. As Ron mentioned, we're getting a lot of phone calls, a lot of questions, when things are in the news and fresh in everyone's mind, seeing it live, the tragedy that's going on, there's a lot of concern. I kind of was hoping, if it's okay with you, Ron and Mayor, of letting our emergency manager kind of open up on what she's planning on doing, what she'd like to do. And then I'll take it on from the fire side on some of the things that I'm doing. And then, of course, open it up to the police department if that's okay.
Your
So,
presentation.
the presentation, yeah.
It's your presentation. Go
Okay,
ahead. Anything you
so-
want to do.
Tanya's online, so let's go ahead and, Tanya, are you okay with that, taking lead on the emergency management side of it? I know you've been getting a bunch of calls as well.
Yes, sir. Not a problem. Thank you, Mayor, Council, Administrator Curry, Chief Martinez. So emergency preparedness is near and dear to my heart, and to the village it should be. One of the big things we do is we try to get the information out that the first line of defense is yourself. You need to, I say it all the time, have a plan, be prepared. If you go to our website, I'm always putting stuff out like, make a plan, be ready, have your call list, have your meeting spot, because you need to be prepared yourself for any emergency, because it takes time for the government to come in and assist. They talk about you should be ready for about 3 days. Because yes, we're the fire department, but if it's a wildland fire, we're going to be going out trying to stop the fire from burning your homes down. So if you've got to evacuate, yes, we will have evacuation centers, we'll have animal evacuation centers, but you need to be able to get your animals out. If you've got animals with special feed, you need to make sure you have that. You need to have your prescriptions ready to pack and go with you, or at least be able to get them refilled and say, I can't get to my house, and know where all your prescriptions are. So every year we do an emergency preparedness training in the village. We even did some online with COVID. We are getting ready to set up our one for the spring. It's going to be sometime in February. I was looking at February 15th, but that is around Valentine's Day. So I may push that forward a week or back a week, but we'll be advertising because I know we get people that have things to do, but I want to do it on a weekend so more people can attend. We are planning on recording it so it can be seen on our YouTube channel, and we may record other ones just in case people want to go up. We'd like to do quarterly preparedness information for you. So late winter, early spring, wildfire, then work into the summer, talk about flooding and preparation, because we do get monsoons. And if you've been here for a while, you know we can have flooding. And then do one for winter. Just try to mix it up, even though the plan is still pretty much the same, but to talk to you about the different hazards and maybe the little different things. Everyone needs to be registered for Code Red. Code Red is the emergency notification system. It's what we send out for shelter in place. The police department can get it sent out. The fire department can get it sent out. It could be roads are closed if they're going to be impacted for a long time. It could be evacuate. You need to be registered for that. And we try not to overuse Code Red. Every time we do a Code Red, we will get some people that don't want that message. Well, that's why we try not to overuse it. We want you to know when Code Red goes off, there's a reason. And you can go in and update. You can make sure you have your text messages, your emails, and your phone calls. So do that. I'm always available to help people build their emergency plan. Like I said, our website has it, but you've got to plan for yourself. And if you've been around for a while, you've probably seen me. One year I walked around with a box, and it had all the stuff you need to have in a box for your animals. We did a big animal one with Champion CEAC, dog food, bowls, and then I do one for people as well. And remember that if you're asked to evacuate, please do. We can't force you to, but it's for your own safety. But make sure you take everything with you, because once you're evacuated, you won't be able to be back in until it's rendered safe. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. Just a really brief overlay of emergency management. I work directly with the state, Homeland Security, FEMA. I'm working on getting grants and just really working with both the police chief, the fire chief, and public works to make the village safer.
Stuart, would you like?
Thank you, Tanya. So since you can't give or make it mandatory for a person to leave the house, is the state statutes have anything for if a mass evacuation is given by the mayor, and if you restay in your house, is there any penalty from a state statute standpoint of view?
No, there is not a penalty from the state statute point of view. In the state of New Mexico, when we say mandatory evacuation, I cannot physically pick you up your property and ask you to leave. You are welcome to stay. what a lot of departments do is if you say you're staying, and Counselor Murray, I'm just going to use you because so I don't pull someone else's name and they think I'm talking to them. If I go to your house and I say, Counselor Murray, you need to evacuate, or the police department goes out and you say, I'm not leaving, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to protect my house, or I don't care that there's a rail leak across the way, whatever the issue is, you're not leaving. We were going to record it at dispatch, and we also are going to ask for if you'll give it to us, your contact information for your next of kin in case you don't make it out. So we can notify them if you die in the emergency incident, and we have contacts for them. Because that's all we can really do is to stress why we want you out, but we cannot physically remove you in the state of New Mexico. We can keep you from going back, but we cannot physically remove you because you are the property owner, you are the adult, and you have the right to. And I get that, but we really ask. We don't tell people to evacuate willy-nilly. And I'm sure Chief Martinez will say it. If you see smoke, you smell smoke, you're not happy with the smoke, you also don't have to wait for us to tell you to evacuate. You can leave. In the Applewood fire, I had people from way away that's friends were near Applewood that called and said, Tanya, I'm calling you to tell you we're evacuating. This is where we're going. Because in a big evacuation, we would have a call line picked up, because if you're not going to come to the evacuation center, I want a list of who you are, that you've made it out of your house. So when someone calls from another state, maybe they can't get you on the cell phone, but they can call our number. I can say, oh, you know what? He is fine. They're up at, the Best Western in Rio Rancho. So we do try to track that, but we cannot force you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
Okay. So, thank you, Tanya. So she covered kind of the emergency management. We're going to be having some more meetings and plans and more public, appearances and try to record those. So in case someone can't make the meeting, they could find it on the website or our YouTube channel. I just kind of want to briefly go through, some of the things that we're constantly working on. So when we have a high wind event in the village of Corrales, and I say that like red flag day and stuff, that's what California is dealing with is, high winds. It's really hard to stop a fire in high winds. And we have those wind days. And what we do, and we have been doing, is we have a red flag protocol. So on red flag days or high wind, high fire danger days, we have a checklist that we go through, and we go out and we check the Bosque gates. We close down Siphon Gate at Corrales Road and close down Romero if there's no one parked in the parking lots. Try to limit access to the Bosque for two reasons. One, we don't want anybody going in there and starting fires. And two, we also don't think it's a good idea to be in the Bosque when it's high wind. These trees have been falling. You guys see them, just in the village itself, but we have a lot of dead and down in the Bosque. And, just even the smallest branch could kill somebody. So we go out there, we check the gates, we patrol, we check every one of our water tanks to make sure that they are full, topped off. We double check our fire pumps, we check our generators in preparation that, if we have a power outage, and we make sure that our water tanks are topped off. We do sell water to contractors. On a high wind event day, we stop all water sales. So no one's going to take water from our water tanks because that's precious to us, right? So we do things like that. We increase our staffing. We bring in extra staff on those types of days. And on those days, you may see trucks going up and down the roads, up and the side. We try to split them up in two. So we have trucks patrolling the north side of Corrales and trucks patrolling the south side. So if you see them out there, that's what we're doing. We're out there patrolling. So if we do get an ignition start, hopefully we're in the vicinity so we can hit it aggressively and fast. As you know, the water tanks and the hydrant system is unique to Corrales. I've gotten a lot of phone calls on our particular water system lately. Like, when are you going to get a hydrant near my house, Chief? How is your water system compared to, other water systems? And all I could say is, we try, as you know, we're trying to build a 500,000 gallon water tank up on top of Angel Hill. It's been small steps. I think the mayor mentioned, we're always asking for our legislatures as capital ICIP is a top priority for fire suppression. Our system is unique in a way that it's only fire suppression. So, I can't speak on behalf of California, but I've been trying to follow the news. And depending on what I read, I don't know if it's factual or not, but I could tell you that most water systems are designed for one or two houses or in a commercial area for a large commercial building, not for the whole neighborhood to be on fire. And so our system is designed strictly for fire suppression. We will not have residential lines that are going to impact our pressure loss or our volume. The only thing that's going to take away from our system is fire suppression. Our system is designed for one hydrant at 1,000 gallons per minute. That's like one home. So I just want to, explain that to you because our system is not designed for a whole neighborhood. So I'm not trying to, it's a very good system. And we have really good pumps and redundancies, but the magnitude of a large wildfire like that consumes a lot of water. And so we're still in the efforts of trying to continue our extension, and we'll be going out for bid hopefully soon for Angel Tower for the 500,000 gallon water tank. The recent projects, we ran a hydrant on Pereira Road that's fully functional. It's been tested. So that's an improvement off of Corrales Road, and that protects that residential area better now. We started on Monday our water line extension on Andrews Lane. And so if you drive out there, if you go out there, you'll see all the pipe laid out, and it's going to go from behind the school all the way to Dixon. And the next phase of that project is going to go all the way to the Bosque. Our goal is to have our first ever fire hydrant near our Bosque this spring. So we're trying to stick to the game plan on that and the timeline. We have the funding, it's legislative funding. And then when we're done with that project, we're going to go back to where we started behind the school, and we're going to go south as far as the money will take us to get a hydrant, hopefully close to the Bosque at Andrews by Meadowlark. So want to give you an update on that. As you know, I work really hard with a lot of the committees, CHAMP, CEAC, CBAC. We're always the Corrales Bosque Advisory Commission. We're always trying to do firewood pickup. I welcome anybody to help us volunteer. We have another pickup this Saturday to try to get rid of dead and down. We try to do one cleanup a month, and it's a public event. We take dump trucks, Public Works, and we take tons of dead wood, and it only feels like we're making a small dent. The Bosque, as you know, we've been trying to do project work. We've been trying to clear out the tow levee for the last couple of years. They just completed that project. They're about 90%. They have to go back and do some more cleaning because of the dead and down along the tow. And that was a project not only for fire suppression, but it was also a project to protect our levee, which goes back to emergency management. The levee is an engineered levee built by the Army Corps of Engineers in the late 90s, and it has to be inspected every few years. So we're excited about that project. And once we complete this project, we can apply for more grants through the New Mexico State Forestry to continue efforts on trying to reduce the fuel load in our Bosque. It's a never-ending cycle. It's every year we have to keep doing something. I've been working with Senator McKenna and on her way out, and then Senator Nava, I hope, and I think they're communicating, at least I hope. I'm trying to bring back the inmate work program in the state of New Mexico. As you know, we used to use the inmates here in the village of Corrales, and the program went away. So we are actively trying to talk to state forestry, the New Mexico corrections, and trying to come up with a solution so we could bring back some inmates that can help with some of these, whether it's fire suppression or just fuel reduction. And so I'm excited about that. I'm looking forward that if we could bring that program back, because not only did Corrales benefit, but other municipalities around here benefited when you just don't have the workforce. Working with code enforcement. As you know, we have a code enforcement officer. She's out and about. She's doing a lot of work for me. She's out there enforcing roads. that are being encroached by vegetation, people planting trees outside their fence in the side of the road, private road issues, power lines, trees and power lines. So she's out there and she's really making a difference and an impact on us. And she's really, helping the fire department with those needs when we don't have the capability to go out there and do that. So, and if you have a complaint or you're concerned about a fire danger, please follow the process and go through the code enforcement office and we'll address it. So we take that stuff very seriously. Also, working with P&M, building codes. I hope to be before you updating some of our fire codes and some of our building codes. As we move forward, some of these in areas where new construction is going on, there's newer materials out there that I think is worth looking into as far as adopting some of the codes to try to keep your house safe, more fire resistant, especially in some areas that are prone. And also, administration and I have been looking at some of these farmlands. This is just a recent thing in the last couple of years, been trying to look at maps and looking at open spaces. I know that we have purchased some open spaces in the past. Identifying those open spaces to where we get into the fire season, making sure that maybe they're barren and reduce the fuel load on them as a place of refuge. If you look at these fires, I think they're classifying them now a new terminology of mega fires. They're just large, and in any sort of wind, they're just moving very rapidly. And people, when they try to evacuate, they're getting bottlenecked. As you know, we have small, narrow roads. We're always trying to address issues on some of these roads. We have to look at worst case scenario, that if you can't get out, you need to be able to get to some place that is, open and barren. So, so we're trying to identify some of these areas where it could be a place for like a safety zone. If you're in an area that, let's just say hypothetically, someone, was trying to evacuate their horse with a horse trailer. They got a jackknife, they got stuck. No one can get in, no one can get out. Or even just your car stalled out. We got to think of these scenarios, and we got to be open. We got to look at all alternatives. We have a lot of one way in and one way out. We have to be open to say, okay, maybe we should look at a secondary means of egress, which is hard because we have a lot of private roads. So with that, I could talk about this for hours. So I hope to maybe have more of a formalized plan for you as we move forward and we schedule some meetings and have more interaction as far as what we've been doing, what we're trying to do, and what we need help with. So
Any questions? Councilor Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Anthony. So if there was a catastrophic event here in Corrales, our neighbors would help, right? Rio Rancho, Bernalillo County, things like that. They would come in and help you as well.
absolutely. Yeah, we would call for assistance. A big incident like that's going to require lots of emergency services for a lengthy period of time. And so some of these events, they could take days. So you have to plan for the initial response and then second shift and then a third shift and bringing in other resources. Yep.
Councilor Woolman.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief. So this is really a great update. Just a couple of quick questions. If a catastrophic fire were to start, it's probably going to start in the Bosque and move west. Obviously, depending on the winds. The Bosque is managed by MRGCD, the federal government, and Corrales. You're looking for funds for hydrants throughout the Bosque. Does MRGCD, the federal government, are they kicking in at all to try to help you in expanding those fire suppression lines at this point?
So, Mayor, Councilor, that's a really good question. So the Bosque is a very sensitive area. The Bosque is owned by the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy. We partner with them as far as we have some obligation to help with some maintenance. Like the tow project, that was a collaborative effort. We applied for the grant through state forestry. They liked the idea because it benefited the tow and the inspection and the integrity of the levee and also fire suppression. Hydrant lines, I should say it's a pipe dream. We want to run hydrants in our bosque.
Yeah.
Looking more into it, it's a bigger deal of environmental. And so I'm looking outside of the Bosque Preserve to run hydrants, which would be along private drives, like I'm going down Dixon from the east going west. They have not contributed any sort of funds or anything, but they are in support. And I think if we can collaboratively come up with a list of everything that we want to accomplish, to include getting rid of the hazard. That's number one. We got to focus on vegetation management. Every year we do nothing in there. It's just building up. And two, how do we get water? And if you look at the Riverside Drain, which I rely on for water, we put pumps into the ditch. Over the past few years, it goes dry. And we have no water. And so we have to truck in our water. So it's a high priority. I would think that it would be a high priority at our congressional level. But I have not seen any help at that level yet. And I know that I've stressed the need for water and the need for infrastructure needs. And I don't know what else I can do.
And the second question, if I could, it appears as if the spark from some of the fires in Los Angeles were from down power lines, that the winds were so strong, it just knocked the power lines and the power had not been cut off. Is there something in place that you can, I know we have a person at PNM, that you can ask for the power to be cut off if a fire starts and you think it's going to be a threat, kind of a really, a large threat to the village?
Yes, Mayor, Councilor, again, we're in conversation with PNM. We have been working on a franchise agreement. We have a draft. I was almost complete with some of my language to submit to our legal department. But the recent events with the winter storm has changed some of the criteria. So I'm reevaluating that. There is a program that you can order a full grid shutdown in an event like that. We're trying to find out more details. Of course, it's going to impact everybody.
Sure.
Especially in our community. We have to take into consideration that we're all on wells and we have no backup power. And so once you kill the grid, you've killed any sort of response. If someone's at their house and they have little embers and they might be able to put something out, you've taken everything away. Some of my water tanks, you've taken the power away from there to fill up automatically. So we're discussing that. Again, we are trying to focus on eliminating the hazard. So PNM is trying to put together a schedule. As you've seen, they went through up and down Corrales Road and cleaned up the trees. They're going to be working on the lateral lines that offshoot off the main power grid. Once they do that, then we really need to, as the village and code enforcement and education, educate the public that once the trees are out of the power lines, it's the homeowner's responsibility to maintain that. It takes everybody. We're all stakeholders in this. We're all in this together. And they need to think before they plant a tree underneath the power line. If that tree is trimmed up, they need to maintain it. And if they don't want that tree, then we need to try to offer them some assistance to get rid of it and give them an alternative means of planting another tree away from a roadway, away from a power line, just to make our community safer. Because you're absolutely right. The power lines are causing fires. I don't know if it's the utilities. I'm not going to get into the legal. I don't know who owns it, but I know that we all have to be aware of that, and we have to address it.
I think some of the fires in Los Alamos area, they didn't have apparently the corridor wasn't wide enough of clear trees.
Yeah.
Lines came down and the disaster.
And we, and I say we, my department, code enforcement, we are gonna do our best to try to educate the public. Because I could tell you, once they start trimming trees, not everyone's happy with that. PNM tried to trim one tree here off of Krause Road and they had to vacate because the citizen was irate. So we have one large tree that didn't get trimmed. And we're trying to put together a plan to, we may have to summons him to court and go out there with law enforcement to trim that tree. We got to remember, PNM has a responsibility and they have easement, so they have a right to maintain their utility. But how some citizens refuse to let them in their property, and that's a problem.
Thank you.
Any other
Stuart?
questions?
Thank you, Mayor. So I have to compliment you and the MRGCD because they're finally working on the ditch west of my house.
Good.
Last 2 or 3 weeks have been here and the grinder go away and the chipping away. Thank you very much. I mean, it's taken us a while to get that going, but they seem to be doing a pretty good job. So you did bring up a question about cul-de-sacs, one way in, one way out. What advice do you have for residents about if your cul-de-sac is blocked? How do you escape, any event that might be, how do you get out of that area if you have, or if you live on a cul-de-sac and that exit entrance is blocked?
Mayor, Counselor, those are scenarios that we run through that we hope don't happen. Again, it goes back to making sure your property is prepared. If you have defensible space around your home, you may have to shelter in place. If you have a home that's just full of dead vegetation, you may have to vacate your property and go to a safer property if you cannot get out. Because we don't have another means of egress. I've looked at private properties where this question's come up to where they might have a gate on their back fence or something that goes into another roadway that isn't a legal access point, but it might be a way for them to get out on an alternative road. So it's kind of situation dependent. We have had emergencies and fires on roads where our equipment takes up the whole road. And we've had citizens upset because they can't make it to work because our fire truck's blocking the road. And we're like, we can't just stop the fire truck and move it because there's no other way around. So those situations, all I could say is you need to have a plan. You need to evaluate your home. We'll be more than willing to go to your home and do a self-evaluation. We have a checklist and we'll go and evaluate your home on the risk of wildfire and make recommendations to you. And try to make your home, harden up your home in the event of a wildfire.
And how about large animals? I know you're probably working with Champ and the equestrian group, but locations for where animals can be taken, in case there is an event. We have plans in place to where we can take these animals.
So we have an emergency evacuation for large animals. We have different locations. We have the rec center. We have the fire substation, which is kind of like a self-serve. We have horse corrals where someone could go and just offload their animal and then lock up the horse corral. We're in the process of adding hopefully a couple more horse corrals up there as a self-serve. So owners can just drive up there out of the way. We, through emergency management, we have other resources where we can contact outside agencies. There's the state fairgrounds, there's the town of Bernalillo, the sheriff's posse. So there's different locations that we can route people to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
But with that, though, I want to emphasize, if you have animals, whether it's 5 dogs, 5 cats, horses, you need to have a plan for every one of your animals. You need to have a means to evacuate those animals. We have owners that have animals, but they have no means of a truck or a trailer to evacuate them. I also want to emphasize that, during the summer months, everyone's vacationing. If you have someone watching your home and watching your animals, share your plan with that individual, what they expect, because you might be out of town and someone's watching your house and we have a wildfire and you're told to evacuate, but you don't know who to contact to evacuate your horse or anything like that. So please, if you have a plan, share your plan with your neighbor, family, somebody. So. Okay. Any other questions? And
Okay.
I'll open it up to the police chief. Yeah, he could talk a little bit more about evacuations. Okay, thank you.
And Chief, Mayor, Council, Counselor, Administrator Murray. I think the fire chief and deputy chief emergency manager covered really most of it, but the thing I really want to stress is obviously the individual citizens taking responsibility for their safety, property, animals, and not relying so much on government, whether it's local government, county or state, to tell them, hey, it's time to get out of here. You know, if it seems like it's time, it's time. Don't wait for us, okay? And yeah, if you failed to plan, you plan to fail. Like the fire chief said, if you have 8 horses and 1 2-horse trailer, you got a little bit of a math problem to deal with there, and you don't want to be dealing with that. You know, during a major incident, whether it's a flood or a fire or what have you. You have to, you know, let your neighbors, friends, relatives know about your plans. If you're out of town, you have to have somebody available who can load up your trailer and take your animals and get them out of there, right? And then it's going to be a fluid situation. Like the fire chief said, we have 2 designated points in the village. If they're both affected by a wildfire, for example, then we're going to have to come up with plan C, D, and E. And that's where the outside agencies come in, and that's where our, you know, incredible relationship with those agencies goes. You know, Emergency Manager Lawton is in constant communication with the county and state emergency management officials. You know, we're in constant communication with the other fire chiefs and police chiefs and sheriffs in the area. You know, it's pretty evident with some of the major crimes we've had to deal with in the last few years here, and it's a force multiplier. Instead of having 17 officers on a scene of a major incident, say it's a wildfire or a neighborhood fire, we're going to have 117 because the other agencies are going to come assist. When it comes to evacuations, if evacuations are ordered, yes, we will, depending on the situation, if it's safe to do so, we'll go door to door and we'll try and convince people that the best thing to do is leave. It's going to be recorded on our body cameras, and if they refuse, it's on them. You know, there's a lot more liability for the police in the village of Corrales if we forcibly remove someone from their property than if we let them stay there and they unfortunately die in that fire. So we're going to let them stay. It's going to be duly documented that we tried to help, and then we're going to move on to the next resident and see if we can help them. When it comes to directing traffic, you know, if we decide the evacuation is going to be to the north, south, northwest, or west, then we'll figure out where to post the officers for the evacuations. And hopefully by then we will have the outside agencies down here to assist us. If it was just a extremely catastrophic condition, the mayor has the option of requesting National Guard assistance. So that's something also to keep in mind that goes way beyond, you know, our capabilities, the counties, the cities, and the state as well. So if it got to the point where there's, you know, say we had a large scale, long-term evacuated area, and God forbid there was some looting taking place, right? You know, it doesn't always have to be in a city for looting. That's something you should have thought of 5 years ago, not the day after the incident. As far as, you're not going to be able to take everything with you, everything that's important or valuable. Hopefully you do have your important documents. You know, if you keep cash on hand, heirlooms, jewelry, and those types of things. But if you have valuables that you can't take, you should have a safe, a fireproof safe that is not easily moved already in your home, where those things are going to be still standing when you get back, even if your entire property is burnt to the ground. So just things to think of, and things for people to plan ahead for. You know, anybody who's not on code red, like Tanya said, needs to be. If you're not, you've been living in a bubble for the last 15 years, you know, I'm almost tired of hearing about it, but we have to hear about it. So with that, I'll stand for any questions you might have from the police side.
Chief, thank you very much.
No, thank you, man.
Anything else? Oh, yeah. Well, Kathleen came in. Kathleen, would you like to come up and speak real quick?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just, because of the subject matter, I've had several emails lately concerned about fires in the Bosque, that they're seeing them at night, either individuals unhoused. And I would love to have this opportunity with both chiefs here to talk about what is the protocol, if this is something, if they're watching, the constituents have written me, what is the protocol? They call the police. How are they able to follow that procedure? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councilors.
Okay, chief.
I was closer, Chief, Mayor, Council, Representative. So I think a fire in the Bosque, especially as dry and windy as it's been, would constitute grounds for a 911 call. So I'm not even going to give you the non-emergency number. Instruct those folks to call 911 and they'll get police and fire response. Like the fire chief said, we do patrol them and us both for that, but again, the citizens alone are a force multiplier, right? Instead of having 34 eyeballs out there with the 17 officers, which aren't all out at the same time. Of course, with the 9,000 citizens, we have 18,000 eyeballs. So please encourage them to call 911, not feel like they're bothering us by any means, and we'll go check it out. And there are times we find out that it's across the river or Albuquerque, Bernalillo counties area. We'll get the right jurisdiction there to deal with it. But if they see it from Corrales, give us a call.
But regardless, if there's a fire, we're gonna put it out.
These guys are gonna put it out. There's
Yeah,
no
we're gonna
question
put it
about
out.
that. Yeah.
We're not gonna look and see whose jurisdiction it is.
Right,
We'll put it
yeah.
out.
Now, when it comes to, criminal violations, whether camping in the Bosque, maintaining a fire, those types of things, then we have jurisdictional issues as far as law enforcement goes. But for the safety issues, yeah, we're gonna put it out and the fire department's gonna be on it. And then I don't know if you send Albuquerque a bill or how that works.
Mayor, council, just chief covered the 911. I just want to reemphasize that if you report an emergency, and I know when you call 911, you call from the cell phone, sometimes the signal, when it gets triangulated, if you're on the southern part of Corrales, it could get transferred to Albuquerque, Bernalillo County. So if you know you're in Corrales and they answer the 911, be sure and tell them that you're in Corrales. We have protocol set so calls aren't being transferred, that someone's going to answer your phone call and they're going to ask you a whole bunch of questions. And when you call an emergency, try to give, the best possible location. We had a recent event at the south end and we happened to be listening to police department and we got dispatched to a different area. So if you're going to call in a fire, and you try to give a cross street, you try to give landmarks. There have been times where we receive a 911, they're on the ditch. Well, which ditch? So we are working with the Corrales Bosque Advisory Commission. We're trying to identify some of the ditch roads that intersect the Bosque and putting little signs so people know where they're at. But that is key for us to get a very fast response to the location. If you see a fire, try to give cross streets, try to give exact addresses, any sort of landmarks, and try to stay available. There have been times where we get dispatched and we call out and the fire is huge, but we get there and we can't find it because it's underneath the road in a culvert. And we try to contact the calling party back and they're nowhere to be found, or they don't answer their phone so we can get the exact location. So I just want to reemphasize that those are real important things so we can get the call and get to the scene as quickly as possible.
Mayor, one more.
Councilor Murray.
That brings to mind a question. Is homelessness a issue in the Bosque? Because I know a few weeks ago, there was a story on TV about Santa Ana Pueblo jurisdiction being federal lands versus Pueblo lands. Do we have that same issue? I mean, or is homelessness a problem within Bosque?
Mayor, council, it has been a problem. And that's where we rely on everybody that goes in and recreates, that if you see somebody, you see a camp in our Bosque or anywhere in the village of Corrales, report it. We work closely with the Corrales Police Department. They usually respond first for our safety, and then we go and try to mitigate it. We take that very seriously. We have the Corrales Bosque Advisory. We have sections where they utilize the What 3 Words app. They'll send me a What 3 Word location, or they call dispatch and share that information. Then we go and we address it immediately because we take that very serious, especially now in the wintertime. We do have encampments or camps underneath the culverts at Calle Cuervo area, the apartments, they're in the Amafca channel. We're currently working with Amafca to try to clear out some of those camps and make it safer. Yeah. But if they're in our Bosque, that is, we definitely want to know about it so we can address it.
Thank you.
That's a huge risk.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Chief?
Mayor, if I could, Mayor Council, I just want to make mention of, I'm sure all of you notice the shopping cart traffic periodically, you know, alongside of the roads, usually at the south end, but I just want to give a shout out to Steve because him and his crew have been really good and quick about removing them and getting them back to where they belong when they're abandoned there. Some of our police officers who drive trucks will throw them in the back if they're not actively on a call or have somebody in the vehicle preserve somebody too, and just get them back where they go before, you know, somebody gets the message that it's okay to do that and just turn this into a shopping cart parking lot. So if you do see that notice before we do, feel free to give us a call.
Senator Nava, did you want to come up and speak?
Mayor, members, thank you so much for the time, and I just want to thank the constituents of the town, the village of Corrales, for your diligence in being here during all of these meetings that you all have to address the issues. And chiefs, thank you very much also for your work. It's really good to see you all. I want to just formally thank you for the support, and now coming into this role, I want you to know that you have an open ally, you have an open door with me. If there are ever any issues that need to be addressed, please know that I am always willing to chat with you. We are figuring out my location at the state capitol in terms of the office, but it should be all set and done by next Tuesday. So next Tuesday, open invitation also. That is the first day of legislative session. That'll be when we will be sworn in as well. But I just really want to thank you and want to just open my doors and really let you know that if there are any concerns and any issues that really need to be addressed, I'm all open ears. I know capital outlay is always, you know, vitally important. And as I told the mayor on the trail, and now I cover a district that is very large, but I am committed at its fullest to all of my constituents. And I just wanted you all to know that as well. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you.
No, I'm gone through that. Administrator.
So you ready for the administrator's report? Okay. So Mr. Curry will proceed with the administrator's report right now.
First up is Tanya.
Thank you,
Well,
Mayor,
she's-
Council Administrator Curry. We will transition a little bit from emergency preparedness to some respiratory and illness updates. So New Mexico was one of 4 unfortunate states to be at the highest level of influenza-like activity. We are colored dark purple. It doesn't get any higher than that. So respiratory illness is definitely out there, ranging from COVID, flu, RSV, and par influenza, human par influenza, which has been a lot in the news, and people are going, it's a lot in the news about China having some outbreaks, but some of their outbreaks are actually looking like there's some different kinds of H viruses, bird flu viruses. Still no human to human transmission in the United States. Cattle and chickens are still getting sick from it. Cats are another very susceptible species, and more cats are getting infected with bird flu as well as birds. So remember, if you are like me and have chickens, do some protocols where you don't wear your dirty shoes back into your own house, wash your hands, have a separate pair of shoes that go in the house and in the chicken coop. If you have sick animals, the recommendation, or sick birds, is to use gloves and respiratory protection. And don't pick up anytime you shouldn't be picking up dead wildlife with bare hands. You should wash your hands when you do that, but especially now, and especially with birds. We will transition over to COVID levels in the United States are kind of leveling off, but of course that means deaths in emergency room visits are going up. In New Mexico for the week ending January 5th, 9.67% of all emergency room visits resulted in a discharge with some sort of respiratory virus. Of that, 2.75% was COVID, 6.44% was flu. You can still get your flu shot. Right now, they are saying that this year's flu vaccine is 41% effective to keep you out of the hospital or needing any kind of medical care. Not perfect, but better than, better than nothing. And RSV is still kind of low in New Mexico at 0.48%. Part of that hopefully is because people over 65 can get an RSV vaccine, one vaccine. Right now, that's the only one they need. Pregnant women who are in their third trimester, there is a vaccine for them to get to give their babies who are, once again, all illness, very young, very old, have the hardest time with it. But getting the vaccine in their third trimester gives their babies protection. And then children that were born that didn't get that, there is a monoclonal antibody that can be used for helping prevent them from getting RSV. Wastewater is high in New Mexico still. We've been high for quite a while. So just remember, and norovirus. I was going to say use hand sanitizer until I got to norovirus. Norovirus is a fomite, meaning it comes on surfaces. It can be respiratory, but much more touching your eyes, touching your face, touching your mouth. Hand sanitizer does not kill norovirus. You got to wash your hands really, really well. ABCs 2 or 3 times. Really clean your hands. If you're going to be in a public place with lots of people that have been in and out, use your elbow to open doors. You don't touch like if you're riding an escalator, don't touch the banister unless you have to. If you do, don't touch your face till you wash your hands. And remember, norovirus can be very severe, once again, young and old. However, unlike a lot of other illnesses, usually it's 1 to 3 days of vomiting, maybe diarrhea, maybe both, stomach cramps, fever. You are infectious for about 2 weeks post-illness. So you yourself, when you get feeling better, really need to wash your hands to prevent your family members and friends and coworkers from getting it. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Looks good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Next up, I'd like to ask Sky to give a brief report. She's been working diligently on lodgers tax, and there was a meeting today of the lodgers tax board, but she spent a lot of time on lodgers tax and business permits. She has some numbers to give to you, and how about it, Sky?
Okay, thank you, Mayor, councilors, and Administrator Curry. So this was my year-end report. The total amount that we collected in 2023 for lodgers tax was just a little over 12,000. The total collected for 2024 was 23,251.34. So we've almost doubled what we brought in. We also issued, or Planning and Zoning issued 12 short-term rental permits in 2024. 9 of those permits were found on the Granicus software that we've been using. So I do see that the trend for this lodgers tax will be increasing throughout this year as well. And we do have some other short-term rental properties that will be coming before Planning and Zoning this year as well. So yes, it's been very positive. So right now we're sitting at 39 short-term rental properties. 3 of those properties are long-term. So long-term means that they're not required to submit lodgers tax. Those are rentals that are over 30 days. And in fact, most of those are like yearly rentals at this point. But once they go back to short-term, we'll be at 39 until we have new ones approved. And that's all I have for you.
Any questions? Stuart?
So that does bring up a question. Since we are collecting a lot of the lodgers tax, how do we go about using it besides how we have in the past with events and so forth? It seems to me that we need to come up with a strategy so that this fund doesn't go through the roof, in terms of collections.
There are specific guidelines. Melanie, you want to hit that one?
Yeah, the lodgers tax board met this morning, and they actually discussed some of those topics about possibly advertising in national magazines, There's very specific things that we can spend money on, and it has to be related to tourism. So, you know, we can't spend, well, we could also spend it on a capital improvement for like parking lots or buildings that are used for tourist attractions. But there's very specific uses for it, and it's all tied to the tourism.
So is that a discussion we need to have further down the road?
Perhaps, but I think we're doing a pretty good job. It's 2 years. You have to spend whatever you collect.
Yes.
And I think we're doing a good job in supporting the different activities that go on, the different festivals that are, that come up. We provide them some funding for advertising. We provide them funding for various things that they have. But yes, it may very well be something we have to talk about, especially if, we aren't really what you would say, trying to attract a whole lot of people to the village. But we are, advertising some of the activities that go on in the village. So we may not be spending as much as we may need to in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
All right. The next thing, I would like to ask Melanie to, we talk a lot about IPRAs around here.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we had over 200 last year, if my memory serves me correct.
339 for the year.
Well, excuse me, 339. And so that's a lot for the village of Corrales. And so we thought we'd find a better way of handling them. So you want to talk about that and maybe give a demonstration?
Yes. So our new IPRA software went live in the middle of December. We did spend a couple of weeks doing some like a test run before we told everybody, yes, this is a go. So on our village website here at the very bottom, we now have a tab that says public records requests. So if you click on that, up here at the top is the link to the new IPRA portal. And hopefully it loads here. So residents are now able to make their requests online. And one of the really cool things I love about our new system is this trending topics. So if you go here to the trending topics, it brings up things. And so we're loading things on here that we're getting common requests for. So our police clerk is loading things like all the crash reports for the month. So instead of a resident who's involved in a crash having to contact our police clerk and say, I need this crash report, and then waiting for her to email it to them, they can just go to this, if it ever loads. They can go here and see we have December crash reports, January crash reports, and then they can just go and download it themselves directly to their computer. They no longer have to wait for us to send it to them. And the really fabulous part about this is when we get a request for body cam footage or 911 audio, I can load it up to the system and then the requester can download it on their end. So it totally eliminates the need for putting the information on a USB drive and sending it out to people. So the new system is taking us about a quarter of the time to respond to each request as it was before.
But for the body camera video, you still have to redact
I
it.
still have to redact it separately, but the system, it's much easier to deal with. And so we've eliminated a lot of steps in terms of, we have to go here to save it on this one, and then we have to create this folder, and then we have to create this letter. All of our response letters are saved as templates. All we have to do is click send a letter to the requester, pick which response we want to send. It populates all the information that we need according to the IPRA guidelines, and we have it sent out. So instead of us having to type a letter and retype in the request, which sometimes I got a request last week that was 14 pages of information, and they were asking for 27 different documents. If I had to go in and type all of that myself, that would have taken me a long time. But now anything that the requester put in the request now automatically goes into the letter. So it's saving us huge amounts of time. And so far, the feedback we're getting from the residents is great. We had a law firm that reached out to us last Thursday and submitted a request, and we had it back to her in under 5 minutes. And she said, wow, that's the fastest IPRA response I've ever gotten from a municipality ever. So it's really a good thing. And our police clerk, Charlotte, is doing an amazing job keeping up with all of these. And so it's been a really good thing for the village.
And speed is important because there's a time limit on
Yes, we have 3 days to respond to the request. Typically, we like to respond quicker than that. And if we have one like a body cam footage that is going to take us a few days, we can send a letter saying we need an additional day, 15 days. But yeah, we like to get it out much sooner than that.
Yeah.
Whenever possible.
Okay. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
Couple of numbers. I always like to talk about the local government investment pool. We're at $3,966,577.72. So we're getting close back up to the $4 million. Another factoid is that of our 55 employees that serve the residents of Corrales, 13% of them are residents of Corrales. The rest come from outside of Corrales on a daily basis to serve and work for the residents of Corrales. Councilor Woolman, before we go to our last item, is there anything that you wanted me to address regarding your email that we?
I think just some of the updates are really helpful. You had on Meadowlark, you had on Salsey Park, some of the funding and that kind of thing.
Okay. Councilor Woolman queried me a couple days ago regarding Salsey Park, and Tanya filed and the filed for a grant, and it was received by the grant team in Santa Fe. Just real quickly on that, this regards Salsey Park. The village match would be just over $104,000, but only $67,500 would be in cash. The rest would be in kind. We don't know if we've got this yet. Along with that, there's some requirements regarding NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Review Act, and also a cultural historic survey. There are different levels of this, as you know. The NEPA is primarily a federal requirement, and there are 3 different tiers of NEPA requirements that you can be asked to do. And we would be looking at the one would be the least expensive and the most effective for us. So that's on Salsey Park. On Meadowlark, as most of you know, Meadowlark is almost becoming part of history for the village of Corrales. There's Lower Meadowlark between Corrales Road and Loma Larga. The rework on that will commence in the April-May timeframe, and we're looking at a cost of around $700,000 or less. And then Upper Meadowlark Trail will take place. It's looking like it'll be we submitted a request from the DOT because it's an unusual situation because that capital is being monitored and administered by the DOT rather than DFA. And so there was a delay really on the part of DOT. They resubmitted the request. We resubmitted the request in December, and then we filed a purchase order on December 26th to get it done. So we estimate that the work on Meadowlark will begin in the June-July timeframe. What we have to do is literally get in line with the contractor that we want to have working on it. And so Steve has placed us in line, and those are timeframes that we hope to meet. As you all know, there is money flowing into the state, both federally and also from a state for infrastructure projects. And so there's a demand on really good contractors. So we are in line, and those are real timelines that we hope to meet.
Ron, just on the first on Salsey Park on the match, I mentioned a follow-up email about the possibility that the state match fund for federal projects should be hopefully refilled again, and hopefully at a larger than the 75 million. It was depleted pretty quickly, but I don't know how we get in line for that. If we can do anything proactively prior to the grant coming in, or what the process is.
We're looking at that, Counselor, and there's some quirks in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're trying to find how to get in line and which line to get into.
Thank you.
Counselor, Ryan?
Yeah, so what is the grant for at Saucy Park?
To look at possibly how we maintain it, whether we just throw some sprinkler systems in out there, whether we look at it as leaving it as it is, trying to make it into a functioning park of some sort.
Okay, thank you.
Try to keep it simple,
Mhm.
simple and manageable. Yes, sir, Counselor Murray.
Thank you. So does that include also the chief's request for a fire tank up there as well?
No,
No,
we've got the main request that the chief is talking about is Angel Road. And
Well, I understand, but there have been discussions about embedding a tank up by Salsay Park so that the chief has at least another water source up there. My understanding is there is a well.
yes.
And so if we had installed a tank at that point, he's now got another source of water at least to draw from.
And
This
and we- I'm sorry, go ahead.
this particular grant has nothing to do with that.
Okay, thank you.
But if there is another grant that can be used, I can assure you the chief will find it. Yes, sir.
He's good. He's gonna run it from Angel Road also.
Mayor, councilors, we had a site development plan at one time for Salt Lake Park to include a horizontal type tank, not vertical, because the neighborhood didn't want to see a big tank, but they saw the need for water. We've been, as you know, I got tanks donated from Intel. Those tanks, per the manufacturer, said they couldn't be laid horizontally. They would just catastrophically fail. One of our plans is as we extend our hydrant line down Andrews, we hope to come down La Entrada to serve the commercial area with a hydrant, pressurized water hydrant, which would allow us to maybe possibly vacate our existing tank, get it refurbed, and look at the option of laying that sideways, possibly at Salsa Park is one option. So I just wanted to let you know that we haven't forgotten about that. We know there's a well. We know that where we can get water. We're just looking for the storage opportunity. But we don't have any grants right now to fund a tank, but we're looking at surplus type stuff. Yep.
Thank you.
Councilor Burkett.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure that when we're looking at plans for Salsa Park, we're looking for all the different age groups to have the ability to enjoy the park. It sounds like this is going to be more of a viewpoint kind of show garden for xeriscaping, and we have a drastic need for more activities for kids. And so I would love to look at that put into this decision. I mean, I want it to be low maintenance as well, but I certainly want it to be something that's
Absolutely.
not just welcoming to everyone, but also desirable to everyone.
Yes, no, we want everybody to be able to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay,
One last item in the administrator's report. It's a little different, you know. This month, an unusual date, January 6th, was New Mexico's 113th birthday. And I don't want to ever lose sight of that day as a native New Mexican myself. And there's the first governor of New Mexico was William C. McDonald. And he served for less than a year and then moved on. But as New Mexicans that we all are, we're proud to be New Mexicans, and we all have good stories to tell about New Mexico. And there's a song called the New Mexico song. It's not the New Mexico song that they sang every day at the New Mexico legislature when they open up the sessions. But it's a New Mexico song, and it's sung by a young man from Taos, New Mexico, who's actually performed at the old church here in Corrales 2 or 3 times. His name is Max Gomez. And so he has a New Mexico song, and I've had the opportunity to see him play a couple of times and talk to him. And so I asked him if, in honor of New Mexico's birthday, which was January 6th, if he would allow us to play it here at our village council meeting. And he said he would be honored. So that's what we're going to do right now to close out the administrator's report.
She gonna play?
Says it can't find the file. Hold on. Yeah, came in and got it all prepared earlier. I don't have access to our drives. We've lost connection.
Later, a little bit later.
You don't know it by heart?
Hey, if you put up the words, Councilor Murray will sing it.
No, you don't want me doing that. I've lost my
Okay.
voice a long time ago.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go.
Just-
Here we go.
May not be as great, but.
It's on the phone.
Yeah.
In a barren but beautiful desert, my pony and I found my way to an old highway and put my thumb out for a ride. A team of crazed coyotes stopped and offered me a ride. Said, "What do you of Mexico?" And I looked to them and cried. And things you are.
It doesn't like it.
Just getting to the good part.
I was gonna start over.
Gremlins.
Spiders.
In a barren but beautiful desert, my pony and I found my way to an old highway and put my thumb out for a ride. A team of crazed coyotes stopped and offered me. Said, "What do you of Mexico?" And I looked to them and cried. Things you are. Sky is so much content. Some things you ought to know. Mexico was filled with chili, headed west on for destination headquarters. One Trader Joe. Deal was on the table for sufficient sun. When the fire is chilly from that's some things you are.
Wow. Right.
Maybe we should have Rudy sing
Yeah.
it.
Oh, here we go. Sorry.
to City Airport. They asked me for ID. So I showed them my driver's license to the gal at security. She said, although you speak good English, I can't let you through because for international travelers, only passports do. Some things you all know, like my to content. Some things you all know. Mexico. Yeah, no passports to show. Mexico.
Well, I think Max will probably be back at the old church sometime this year, so maybe you can drop by and see. Thank you, Mayor.
Good job, Melanie.
Mayor,
Oh,
if I may, I just had one quick question, if I could. I was wondering if we had any update from the Pueblo of Sandia on the siphon situation? No,
No.
thank you.
Mayor, I think there was a meeting last week by the MRGCD about water and I understand the siphon's still, they're going back and still negotiating about whether to allow them on the land.
I'm not surprised. Based on some of the stuff that I had seen, different letters and emails I had seen, I'm not surprised. I think the Pueblo is negotiating.
Yeah, part of the problem I understand too, I can talk about this counselor's forum anyway. So anyway, I'll wait.
Okay. Well, we'll move on into Corleone's forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussions or debate, to inform the governing body of an issue or a concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. There will be a 3-minute time limit for each speaker. Please be civil. Do we have anybody?
Yes, we have 9 people tonight.
Wow.
Up first is Gary Newell. Gary, if you'll come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
And I'm not going to sing it tonight either.
It's okay.
Gary Newell, and I live at 140 Cielo Azul. And thank you for your time and for letting me speak. This is either the perfect night to ask for this or the worst night, because I'm here to ask for some coordination between the village and the fire department. I'm here representing Corrales Shrimp, which is a home occupancy business, number 2017-0200. And I'm attempting to produce human edible saltwater shrimp. They're good size. The business is in good standing since 2017. So I would like to politely ask to bring the village council's attention. I forgot my glasses tonight too. It's a double whammy. An issue that I recently faced and one that I think is easily solvable. The issue involves the fire inspection process for home occupancy businesses. And I'm in that process right now. So first I want to say, I understand the need for, and I support the need for, and I'm in agreement with fire inspections. My understanding is that the same rules are in effect today, January 2025, as were in effect January 2024. I followed the published rules in 2024 and no inspection was required. And I had none of the hazards that were listed. This year, I wasn't able to find any published rules or guidelines. And the process, in my impression, the process is it's based on a conversation with the fire department. And in my case, this took a couple of visits to the village offices and follow up on my part. Based on my understanding, what I think I heard is that the nature of this year's fire inspections is because a large number of people lied in 2024, and that sucks. I mean, people shouldn't be doing that. So I believe in following the rules, and I did follow the rules, but I feel that the rules should be published and penalties assessed when the rules are broken. I'm recommending some tweaks to the home occupancy fire inspection process that I think will make the process run a little smoother. So I have 4 recommendations. I recommend that that the rules are, that the criteria for fire inspection should be posted, and then everyone knows the expectations up front. Post the cost of the inspections. Third, if a business owner claims compliance, then require an affidavit stating compliance. The village has a legal team, and I assume an affidavit carries some legal weight. And fourth, part of my recommendation is have the village reserve the right to check up, trust but verify any affidavit and require an inspection post getting the business license. So along with that, I think the inspection would be at the cost of Corrales if it's a checkup.
Thank you, Mr. Newell. That's your time.
Okay, that's.
You can email all these things to village clerk.
Yeah, if you want to come up and get my business card, I'll get you my email.
Man, I read that slowly. I timed it.
Email us
Because you
your-
didn't have
your
your glasses,
recommendation.
that's why.
Up next is Sabine Schurter. Sabine, if you'll come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening and Happy New Year to everybody. My name is Sabine Schurter, 47 Rincon Road. I would like to share a few thoughts about the redacted comprehensive plan that has made available for tomorrow's P&Z meeting. In the redacted version, inputs from villagers, some have been deleted, and work of the committee has been somewhat diluted, deleted. There have been changes. And what I would like to ask for, I don't know, to be fair, the committee should have maybe a chance to comment on these redactions. Issues I've noted is, yes, community planning in Corrales has been problematic. For example, site development applications for 5 venues or bars in Corrales all answer the question, will there be any undue negative impact on the community, with a resounding none or no? Well, we're dealing with excessive lighting and noise, lack of parking and other issues, which have never been mentioned in these applications. I think planning in the village maybe should be looked at as proposed originally as part of the comprehensive plan. There have been issues. Concerns of villagers affected by commercial activities in the mixed-use neighborhood commercial district have been redacted from the comprehensive plan. Instead, commercial activities are promoted even more, and ordinance reviews are suggested, potentially at the expense of residents, health, safety, comfort, and value of their properties. Also, I thought that some of the goals mentioned in the plan will be very difficult to reconcile, but we shall see how it goes. It remains to be seen whether the comprehensive plan will help to ensure that Corrales will remain relatively rural with a high quality of life for all villagers. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay. Up next, representing Champ, Jody Irick, and I apologize if I mispronounced your last name, Jody. Woohoo! You come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, I am Jody Irick, Vice President of CHAMP, and my 218 Ranchitos. And we, as CHAMP, would like to extend our appreciation and a big thank you to the village for the recent signs that have been erected at each entrance to the village, requesting that drivers drive prudently and be mindful of horses, walkers, and bicyclists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
CEAC would also like to express its appreciation for all these wonderful signs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, Marty Sanchez. And Marty, if you'll come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Marty Sanchez, 338 Wagner Lane. I'd like to address you all tonight with a couple of questions that I have, actually. First question that I need to address is I'm a little perplexed as to why on our comprehensive plan that a committee that was appointed by this administration worked so hard and so diligently for a year and a half, got so much input from the citizens of Corrales, really had a lot of obstacles that they had to overcome because some of us were kicking and screaming, no, we don't want a lot of this stuff. But they really made a difference in actually accumulating points of reference that should be in a good 10-year comprehensive plan. And I salute them. The question that I need addressed, though, is why were they shunned? Why, after all the time and effort that they put in this really decent document that can see us through for a good 10 years, why was this put aside for a revision by another member of the administration that kind of, I'm going to say it, gutted a lot of the good points, a lot of the good things that actually were representative of our rural values? I'm very dismayed at this. I would like to see if there's going to be a revision of some sort, if there's going to be more that has to be added or some that has to be deleted. Please, as our counselors, would you please ask some of the members, if not all of them, of that committee to come back and have their input in this? They know it better than anybody does. I commend our village for having a 10-year comprehensive plan. I think it's marvelous. I just want it to really work and really address the value system of all of our corraleños. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Up next, Bill Perkins. Bill, if you'll state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Melanie. Bill Perkins, 5768 Corrales Road. Mayor and councilors, thank you for this opportunity. In late November, I wrote to you to say I thought it inappropriate that for the administration to substitute its own draft comprehensive comp plan for the draft prepared in good faith by the Volunteer Review Committee. Last month, I wrote to you again, this time declaring that the committee's comp plan was a good plan, and I urged your support for its passage. At that time, I spoke to you advocating for sound planning as an integral part of the village administration. A few days ago, I learned of yet another draft, a heavily edited version of the committee's plan. While it appeared that the plan's authorship was unchanged, it was not clear who had undertaken the edits. I've since reviewed this new version, and I think I can see what may have happened. Having failed to kill the plan by eliminating all the action items, the administration seeks now, through aggressive editing, to drain the plan of both its tone and much of its substance, all undertaken behind a veil of creative, questionable, and untimely lawyering. As a citizen who supported the considerable effort by the Volunteer Comprehensive Plan Review Committee to solicit and document the concerns of citizens regarding the direction of our village, it feels to me, as though this administration is treating its citizens with contempt. I will not attempt to comment here on the administration's efforts' effect upon its volunteers. I urge the governing body to take a stand in support of the legitimate concerns of Corrales citizens as expressed in the committee's plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Up next, Rudy Mieta. Rudy, if you'll come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Rudy J. Miera, Corrales preservationist. My wife and I live at 116 East Meadowlark. And on behalf of my wife, my neighbors, all of us on Meadowlark, and even those on Andrews Lane who get back home through traveling through Meadowlark, I want to thank the village for the brand new permanent solar powered speeding deterrent sign that was put up. Thank you guys very much. Everybody who was responsible who worked on it. A special shout out to Councilor Murray who saw it from the initiation through completion. I didn't bring my guitar tonight, so I got a pledge. The village pledge. I pledge allegiance to the rural village of Corrales, the horse capital of New Mexico, and to the farming, equestrian, and village values for which it was founded. Yo prometo lealtad al pueblo de Corrales, el capital de los caballos del estado de Nuevo México, a la agricultura, a los caballeros y las caballeras, y los valores que son la inspiración de nuestra querencia. I pledge allegiance to the equestrian community that stands for the safety of that protects our horses and mules and plans for the future by teaching equestrian etiquette on our village trails to the youth and adult riders. I pledge allegiance to our indivisible community that stands for the safety of our bicyclists and those who walk our trails, our lanes, and streets as students, grandchildren, and our dogs. I pledge allegiance to those who protect our dark skies, our quiet evenings, our clean water, our open spaces, our pollution-free air, and the Rio Grande, and our acequias. I pledge allegiance to our fire department, our librarians who work for high quality of life, and our public works employees and our police officers who keep us safe and enforce our village laws with justice for all. I pledge allegiance to those who protect our liberty through our village council form of government and the village ordinances that preserve the rural character of Corrales. I pledge allegiance to our local businesses that uphold and embody the principles of village economic self-sufficiency and self-reliance. I pledge allegiance to our journalists, our novelists, poets, short story writers, our actors, our filmmakers, painters, sculptors, and those who work in clay and the wood carvers who create works of art that reflect and complement the natural beauty of our cottonwoods, our purple asters, and our views of the Sandia Mountains. I pledge allegiance to those who preserve the sweet sounds of the violin, the banjo. I'm going to cut it short here. I pledge allegiance to our young athletes, the skaters, the soccer players, the hoop dreamers, and the young 4-Hers who grow, sell, and can our tomatoes, our chiles, and apples. Yo prometo lealtad a los mayordomos de hoy en día y los del futuro de nuestro pueblito tan bello, nuestros Corrales. I pledge allegiance to our present and future good stewards of this beautiful corner of the world that we call Corrales. Thank you.
Thank you.
Johnny Martinez. Johnny, if you'll come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Johnny Martinez, thank you for giving me this time. I was actually going to talk about Saucy Park a little bit, but you guys kind of killed that one. But I just want to emphasize, in light of recent events, I really think it behooves the administration, the governing body to really prioritize getting that project rolling. And in trying to get another fire suppression aid, help, I don't know what you'd call it, water tank, to really work that. You mentioned the grant did not, was not pertaining to emergency services, but rather just the park. I don't know if there's any other narrative or wording that we could add to that to try to emphasize that, but I really just think, in light of recent events, I think anything we can do to help our fire folks would be to the benefit of the village. Also, just an observation, having been here forever, elm trees, man, those seeds, they gather along fence lines. And they ultimately will eat that fence. If you've been here for a while and you've cut an elm tree, you see that the fence is part of it. They grow along the fence lines, and I was going down La Entrada and I couldn't help but notice all the little elm trees that are growing along the library fence. But that's just one area. They're all across the village, but they are a noxious plant. They're classified as such. And so while it might not seem like much, I'm telling you that if we don't get rid of those now that they're small, when they grow, they're very hard to get rid of. They're growing along the fence lines and they're growing along the power lines. So whatever we can do as a village to really get rid of those, mitigate that danger before, their growth before they become problematic, because they really are hard to get rid of. They drink a lot of water, the roots get down. They may have been a help once upon a time back in the day, but not anymore. And then lastly, I just want to extend my appreciation for the Comprehensive Plan Committee. They put a lot of time into that. Tell your husband for me, Mel, I really do appreciate all their efforts. And I am disappointed that all their efforts have been gutted. And so I know how much time they put into that. I appreciate their efforts and all the volunteers in the village. And so therefore, I think, and somebody alluded to how that affects volunteerism within the village as we go forward. I really think it matters. We need to, when we have a committee, it's for a reason. They put a lot of effort into it. We really need to respect their efforts and the narrative that they come out with. So thank that committee, and thank you.
Up next, Fred Hashimoto. Fred, if you'll come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Fred Hashimoto. I live at 485 East La Entrada. What's been happening with the Comp Plan Committee and its draft is not right. The key concept has been stated by Jeff Radford. Quote, the village administration does not write the plan, the community does. The village administration does not correct the plan because it is the community's plan, unquote. Storyline here. Administration disagrees with the Comp Plan Committee's draft and wants to change it to its own liking. 2 months ago, when the P&Z was going to review and comment on the plan, administration bullied its way in with its own version. Getting negative vibes, they backed out. A month later, they insisted that by state statute 319.9, P&Z needed to adopt the plan before it is sent to council. The applicability of that statute here can be questioned on many counts. 1, P&Z did not prepare the document. 2, P&Z does not do planning. 3, it has no expertise in planning. And 4, it has never played such a role before. Administration's obvious plan. Take Comp Plan Committee out of the picture. The committee is not mentioned or invited to the upcoming P&Z work study session tomorrow. Neither were they notified of the edited version. To be summarily dismissed after a year and a half of hard work seems outrageous. Over the holiday season, the village attorney and associates did some legal tweaking, but they also made some significant changes, undoubtedly prompted by administration. Perhaps the biggest change is to not have a planning committee that the original report recommended. The planning department was changed to, quote, planning system, unquote. In other words, no change in the status quo, which is not good. Current village planning has left out the public. For the municipal parking lot, council, you all unanimously recommended that a public group, some of us, with an attractive proposal be interfaced with Main Street administration. we were ignored and dismissed. For Amy Bell's 4 properties plan, 20,000 square foot event center showed up, even though no one on a council appointed committee, which met bi-weekly for 6 months, Johnny's committee, thought that a multi-use facility would benefit the village. You all are familiar with the Santa Fe Rail Yards planning video. We need a planning department that works like that. Administration is repeatedly, overtly disregarding talented and dedicated volunteerism, which has been at the village's core, and insisting on getting its own way despite what the public feels. Please consider seriously what the comp plan committee and public have put together. Thank you.
And last but not least, Miss Teresa Lopez. Teresa, if you'll come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
I too don't understand why the village government asked for and got a group of people to get, oh, my name, do I have to go back?
Please.
Let me start over. Teresa Lopez, Rupert's Lane. I don't understand why the village government asked for and got a group of people together to work for about 1.5 years on the comprehensive plan for Corrales. This group worked very hard for a long time. Then all of a sudden, after it was presented to the village, it was pulled out from under their feet and rearranging with wording that the village official think is better. The comp plan group took 1.5 years, and they heard Corraleños' voices, and then almost overnight, it changed with absolutely no warning to them. This is again where the words transparency, honesty, and respect are thrown out of the window. I feel it's so wrong that this was done to the group that worked so hard. No transparency, honesty, or respect was shown to them at all. Corraleños don't want or need things like this to keep happening anymore. Everyone needs to work together. I'm sure as a young person, you learn the words transparency, honesty, and respect, plus a few more good words. As adults, we need to also follow through with what those words mean in our hearts. And again, I've said this before, my favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes is, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
That's everyone.
Okay. Now we'll move on to Councilors Forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion or debate, to inform the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. A council member may respond to an issue or concern brought up by a resident in the preceding Corraleños Forum, but to remain in compliance with the Open Meetings Act, the subject will not be up for debate or discussion. Councilor Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, before I even got here, when I was looking at my agenda, I thought, okay, so on the 28th of January, we're going to start looking at the comprehensive plan. Because as counselors, we really haven't gotten a whole lot of information about it. I mean, we had Chris, who was in charge, briefly give us information. So my question is, what's the sequence of events that will happen on the 28th when the council considers the comprehensive plan?
Well, you're going to get the plan, it's my understanding, much before the 28th. You know, maybe, when was the plan when were they supposed to get the plan?
So the hope is if planning and zoning approves the changes suggested by the attorneys tomorrow night, that the plan would be sent to council first thing Thursday morning. But that's totally contingent upon what happens tomorrow night.
And you'll get an original plan with no changes, and you'll get a red line plan that shows you where the issues arose, the legal issues arose, and the mandates, and the variety of things that were concerning. So you can make a decision based on comparison, if you want to think of it that way.
Okay, so on the 28th, are we going to have, so it's just going to be, we're going to read them as individuals, look at the original plan and the redacted plan, and then what happens? Do we discuss what we?
It's up for consideration. So we'll talk about it. I don't know that we can anticipate a vote at that time. Okay. But we wanted to sort of get it on at the same time as the ACD because we've heard so much from you guys about wanting to know about the comprehensive plan before you make a decision on the ACD. We don't have to make a decision once again on the ACD. That can be put off to a date certain. But the idea is just trying to get this out there so people can understand that we are making progress.
Well, again, I think we need to start wrapping this up. It's been over a year and a half, and I'm glad that it's going to be presented at the next meeting.
Yes, I know it's a year and a half. It was not supposed to be this long.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It was this long because it's so important. And you know, they had to do all those meetings and get all that information. And it takes a while. So.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. So I had come in here planning to discuss one misstep that I think the governing body made at the last meeting, but you guys are going to get a double header tonight now. So I would like to discuss the appointments we made last meeting to Farmland Preservation Committee. I have no issues with the people that we approved. I think they're both qualified candidates for this. The council, myself included, we made the mistake of not asking who is being replaced by these appointments. And we traded some new viewpoints for decades of experience that were on there. And I think that decades of experience was really, really critical with us going through this easement vetting process. I find it a little bit concerning that we put some new people on there and got rid of 20, 30 years of experience, people who've gone through this process previously that I think are really critical to the process and to it working well. And so I think the only way we have to rectify that is to just remind everyone that these are open meetings. Any citizens of the village can go to these meetings. My hope is that the people who are involved early in the process and who have validated some of these properties or at least reviewed some of these properties are consulted to review the properties going forward so there can be an apples to apples comparison. But in the future, I plan to inquire who we're replacing on these commissions before I vote yes or no on anyone. Okay.
I have a question. So are you kind of intimating that people that had been on there just weren't re-upped? They weren't asked to come back?
I don't know if that's accurate for everyone, but I think some of them wanted to come back and some of them potentially didn't, but I think they were replaced regardless of what their desire was. So the second misstep is in alignment with a lot of what people have talked about at the Corralinos Forum. I just tonight saw that we have a redlined version going to planning and zoning. I thought that this issue had been resolved. I was equally upset when we had a modified version of the comprehensive plan set initially to planning and zoning. I think the administration did the right thing and stepped back from that and put the correct version out there. But I am surprised to see a red line version without at the bare minimum attribution to those red lines. There should be very clearly in bold letters saying that those come from our legal representation. I do concern myself a little bit with how it affects our volunteers because they spend a lot of time on it. I had the same concerns when we formed a second committee for the multi-use facility after we had a committee that did hard work on that. And then we replaced their viewpoint with a second committee. So we've done it twice now, two committees that have spent a lot of time. And people are going to think twice about joining our committees. So those are my two things.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So Water Resource Board for Mr. Cog met earlier this month. We had some speakers. We had Tanya Trio from the state engineer. We had Eric Olivis from Burnco. And we had Mark Kelly, who talked about domestic wells on both sides of both of the mountain, east side and west side of the mountain. Part of the issue and the question was asked about the MRGCD, the siphon. Apparently, they were still waiting on the transition from the tribal government. Apparently, there was new members elected. So now they had to circle back around and get the new tribal members to authorize this. So it's still an issue. I don't know if we need to take a look and maybe apply pressure to our government officials or not, but apparently they're having to renegotiate maybe some of that access to the tribal lands.
Which government officials would you like to put pressure on?
Well, I mean, we did a pretty good job with our last time when we were asking, what was going on. It's possible that BLM, I don't know, is stepping in and maybe causing some issues, but I don't know. it's just a thought, just something to think about so we can get this moving. I understand that MRGCD is putting out bids right now for the siphon. So they're continuing to work on this. But anyway, interesting meeting at the Water Resource Board. If I could, let's see where I have my notes at. So Tanya Trujillo has also told us about the legislative impact coming up this year. They're asking for $200 million for the state, which is probably not much considering. There are still issues with the Rio Grande Compact that have got to be dealt with. Apparently the judge or the federal government did turn down the proposal for the states. So now they're back to the drawing board, and it looks like they're going to be in negotiations in February, starting again. My understanding too was that the MRGCD was going to, I think, according to Sam Thompson, going to start delivering water end of February. So that's
wow.
But we don't know how much. And then the other thing I learned, which was interesting, as part of the waters coming in from the Chama Water project and our natural waters, the Chama waters are considered right on top of the native waters. So therefore, any absorption into the riverbank is coming out of the natural waters, which is the MRGCD waters. And that Chama water, this is just for administrative purposes. The top 3 inches of the river are considered Chama water. Go figure. So anyway, that was an interesting little conversation. But anyway, the other thing I want to say, also, I owe an apology to probably several members I offended at the last meeting. I probably stepped over the line when I was talking about the committee members and where they were meeting. I do apologize, and I regret saying that, but I do stand with having our meetings in village facilities, and I think we should continue to do that.
They have been reminded.
Yeah. Anyway, I do apologize for that, and I do regret some of my statements. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Miera.
Thank you. And I want to thank Councilor Knight and Councilor Burkett for enlightening me a little bit more. I almost had the same kind of questions as how you started off, and just wondering when we were going to be getting those. As other people have them, and we haven't had them, but we'll rely on that when that gets out. If it gets out tomorrow, that's a whole nother situation. That was not the reason I asked to put my hand up, but I wanted to thank him for that one.
So
a couple of issues.
Sorry, let me just, now, Melanie, correct me, but isn't the comprehensive plan the original plan on our website?
Both plans are the revised version that was
so you can
edited
see
by
those. Yeah,
yeah.
so you can see those right now.
Right.
Just like anybody else, you can go to the website and see them.
In fact,
Print them up.
you can go to our trending topics on the public information portal and view both plans.
I think the question is, how often should we have to check the website to see if it's changed for that week?
I check it about 3 times a day.
Okay. I have less time.
If you sign up for the trending topic, you get an email anytime we make a change to the trending topic.
Okay, I'm sorry, Councilman.
That's okay, but because that was part of the, on that trend topic, on that situation there, we have to really look at it after tomorrow night's meeting, because that was going to be the biggest one of all. Okay, just want to make sure that.
Yeah, your decisions will be based on what you take from these two, like the one that planning and zoning has had a chance to modify with regard to law, and then what the committee put together, where they have the things that were problems were mandates. And we said, we cannot hold a future council to mandates. We can make suggestions and recommendations, but we can't say you have to do this at this time. It's not allowed. Is that not correct? That's all.
correct.
So just think of that as you read through it.
Gotcha. Thank you. And now where's my hand for you to talk about? We have the legislature coming up, and we're lucky to have, and they were here earlier, and I appreciate both of their presence, our senator and our state representative. A real quick update for you all, as well as councilors here. House Bill 28 is very important. We've talked about it a little bit before. We talked about it a lot at the meeting that we just had with MRG CDC. They are really behind this particular piece of legislation. It probably could have been 12, 13 pages long, making amendments here, making amendments there in our present laws that we have with regards to that particular piece of legislation. But we're able to condense it, and that I say we, working with the Damian Lara, from Bernalillo County, was able to put it into, found it in the existing language in about 3 or 4 sentences, and we make those changes. I say that because hopefully you're going to say, what is he talking about? And you will go out and look at House Bill 28 and read it for yourselves, because 2 things I want you to do, and councilors as well, I want you to go out and read it, get familiarize yourself with it. And those of you who don't know how to take that next step, and we either can't find it, just give me a call at my house, and I'll talk with you how to walk you through it, getting the piece of legislation, and also get prepared to be able to make a presentation when we have House Bill 28 heard in its first, maybe second, hopefully on the floor by that time. And then it'll be carried after that by Senator Nava once it gets to the Senate. And I can walk you through that process as well. This is very important. The process that we just talked about now, but most importantly is that what this does is it changes the idea of who can make a decision about what is indeed a drought. And take into consideration we have here in Corrales, and I think we're outstanding for that. You know, we could have water coming down, whether it's 3 inches, and I couldn't agree with him more. His first 3 inches is San Juan water and our own waters as well, native waters. But the rest of those we have to pay down the road. But you have some problems sometimes when you have a drought, and we can get outside of the system when you have a drought. Right now, the way it's set up, the feds can make a decision where the drought is. And you know that can happen as soon as our siphon pump breaks down. We have a drought probably within hours coming up on this particular site. Now, I'm not overextending it. That's what the bill says. And what is going to the next step is that we get to make the decision. Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, we collectively maybe here in Corrales, or it could be down the road, down in Los Lunas or wherever else, that their drought situations can exist. And what that will do is it'll put us in a position to make some changes, make some waters come available to us. And Middle Rio Grande Conservancy is with this bill. So I want you all to be prepared, because the representative has been working pretty hard. I've been working hard putting this bill together, and I really want you to take it to take time to read it and then be there to support us. So if you have any other questions, now's probably not the time to do it, but I'll be happy to work your way and we'll walk our way through this. On a second note, and I'm going to ask Councilor Burkett to help me out on this particular issue. There's also been other talk. This bill has not been formally written yet, but there's problems about farmland preservation and exactly who gets it and who gets the tax credits that come along with farmland preservation. And seems to be that only if you have federal monies can you get those kind of credits. Yeah, I know. Everybody has the same way. When I talk with Damian Lara down in Bernalillo County, he had the same thing and looked it up, and he says, you're exactly right. That if you, like 2 councilors here, get together and decide we want to donate some of our land, we want to put it into farmland preservation, when it comes time for tax credits, we can't get it. But if it came from the monies came from the federals, that's fine. It's going to make a lot of people want to move back and say, what purpose do I have? I have 15 acres, I have 5 acres. I want to be able to put them in farmland preservation. There's no real reason I should get it, because I'm not getting the tax credits that come with it. And so the assessors that I've been working with on House Bill 28 very much are in favor of this particular piece of legislation. So we're moving forward with that one, putting that one out there as well. So keep your mind. I'll get it out. I've been working with Sam an awful lot. She has all your emails. You're all on our list. We're going to keep you abreast of what's happening. You know, in a week and a half, we start over there in the legislative session. And I'm very proud of Representative Cates, because we got a House Bill 28. The number is very important. A 28 number, we could probably hear it the first week that we start hearing bills up there. That means this bill can move along. Usually if you're like House Bill number 965, well, we'll see you next year. And they can't hear the bill, but 28, that bill's going to be heard. And the best part, I can only reiterate it because it's so important. There was a time when I was up there, you had to drive all the way to Santa Fe, sit there and wait and make your presentation. And if something was pertaining to somebody from Roswell, they drove all the way up from Roswell for a whole day and then stayed up there, and then they heard the bill at 9 o'clock at night, whatever the case would be. Those days are gone. You can get on the internet and you can make a presentation over the phone at your house in your front room and make a presentation and tell how you feel about House Bill 28 or any other bills that you like. But times have changed and they're for the good on that part. So we really want a whole lot of people supporting these particular pieces of legislation. 28's ready to go. And on the tax credit and the farmland preservation, if I may, Mr. Mayor, can I turn it over to Briquette, and you can maybe help me out a little bit on the necessity for this?
I will say that I shared the same face you made. I was surprised to hear that as well. But yeah, anything that clears the pathway for conservation easements and people being properly compensated via tax credits for that donation or for just assigning that to the properties, I would be very supportive of. But it's a limiting factor, and it's something we want to eliminate any barriers people have when they're thinking about doing this with their property.
And since I just heard about it as of late, Mr. Mayor, we would love to be able to have you maybe come with me. We go to the preservation committee and we can talk about that. Of course, we're going to want their support, but there's an awful lot of assessors up and down the valley that are very much saying they're feeling the same way. The problem is that they're limited by the existing law. So my feeling has always been, if we don't like the law, well, change it. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. Anyone else? Okay. We shall move on to the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the minutes from December 10th, 2024 regular council meeting.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. New business, consideration action approval of liquor license application for Stuck Lizard Vineyard. Boy, that sounds bad.
Actually, it's a nice name. Mr. Mayor,
I can see that lizard stuck on
right there.
But I got him unstuck and set him free. So that's where the name came.
Okay.
Good
So-
evening, Council.
So first, before you guys start, I need a motion to approve the liquor license application for Stuck Lizard Vineyard. There's a motion. I have a second and a second. You guys want to go ahead and speak now or?
Yes, sir, that's fine. Good
Okay.
evening, Council. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Karen Fitzpatrick. This is my other half, Mark Green. We live at 1144 West Meadowlark Lane, Upper West Meadowlark.
Very
Thank you.
good.
Thank you, by the way, for putting that the speed thing. It's right across that, so you know where we are. We are right across the street from that. We're
Right.
just looking for our final approval for our liquor application license so we can make wine and wholesale it without a tasting room or a winery. And we stand for questions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you said it quickly and it's getting late and I could understand that. But you're just going to wholesale. You're not going to be retailing, as maybe you can apply for that some other time. That's your discretion. But right now you're going to make wine or get the vineyard if possible so they can wholesale it somewhere else. It's not going to affect Corrales per se with people drinking wine that they picked up out of your property and going up and down the street.
Yes, sir, that is correct. We applied for a wine grower's license and a wholesale license. I have no plans. I was in retail for 45 years. I'm through with the public. So I love the public, but I'm through with the public dealing with that. Very good friends of mine. I've watched them have their tasting rooms open and have to be at their tasting rooms all the time. So it's just going to, forever. So it's just going to be, I'm planning on putting some wholesale, possibly restaurants, but no one is coming into our property at all.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Is the plan for you to use grapes grown in your property or other parts of Corrales as well?
The license that I applied for applies to grapes grown on my property. Yes, sir. And
In the future, if you're successful and you need more grapes, I mean, are there other opportunities for you throughout the village?
Yes, sir. I can apply for different licenses to purchase grapes made. I can make the wine on my property, but I can purchase the grapes and I have to just apply for that licensing to purchase those grapes as well. But at this
Got it.
moment in time, we have about 250 vines. We make about 50 cases of wine, which is enough.
And the only reason why I'm doing this is just to,
Get rid of it.
also by drinking it, but the one I can't drink, I got, just to satisfy my curiosity and, pay for some equipment.
So you have wine already
Yes, sir, I sure do.
ready to go and stuff?
I give it to people who want it.
That's great. That's great. Well, best of luck.
Thank you, thank you.
And as far as fire inspections, you know, we definitely welcome the fire inspector at our house. I have a retail building in Rio Rancho. We had a business forever, and I used to love it when the fire inspector came in because I want him telling me everything that's going to go wrong so I can fix it. So if the place burns down, then I'll get the insurance check and go on a cruise. So.
Okay. How do you vote, Councilor Murray?
Yes.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Wallman?
Aye.
Councilor Mier?
See,
Very good. I guess you can make your wine.
Unstuck my lizard. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be all over to get a bottle.
You got it.
Ooh, that may be a little bit shaky.
strike that, Mr.
Yeah.
I moved to strike that.
Strike that for the record.
At fair market value.
Yes, there you go. If that.
Wholesale.
That's right.
So this is a discussion of a proposed resolution from the
Wait,
Farmers Co-op.
we forgot the
Oh,
the
I forgot
contract.
you. Oh, my gosh, thank you. Consideration action approval of professional services agreement with the New Mexico Legal Government Law Firm.
Oh.
Legal Government Law.
Local government law.
I need a motion to approve
So moved.
and a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes, sir, Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm curious, it looks like the cost of this contract is still about the same from the last time, monetarily wise. I'm just curious, how much did we spend last year on legal services? Do you remember?
I don't know.
I don't know. We'd have to get that information.
You didn't anticipate that question?
We
I did not.
Anticipate that question, no.
Okay.
And the rates did go up a little bit. We're now on par with more of the other municipalities. So according to Randy Audio, they've been, as each contract expires, they've been getting everybody on the same rate across the board. So we were paying a little less per hour previously, but we're now up to the rate that other municipalities
So
are
we're
paying.
up for $160,000 for the year. Is that correct?
That's the cap.
Okay.
Is that the budget?
Well, I mean, is that, it's on the
That,
contract.
that's in the contract. It says that's the cap.
Yeah, that's the budget. That's how much we budget.
Okay.
That's the maximum.
All right. Thank you.
It's a lot. Okay, anybody else? All right, Councilor Mira, how do you vote?
See.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Murray?
Aye.
Did John ever show up?
He did not.
Okay. Now we'll move on to discussion of proposed resolution from the Farmers Co-op regarding the Farmers Co-op. Does anybody want to speak about that? Come on up.
And counselors, I'm actually on the board of the co-op, but I wasn't really prepared to speak. Sam
Okay.
asked if I'd just stick around and answer
Okay.
questions.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
The question that came up was basically for the attorney with regard to the way the wording was and some of the things in the resolution that seem to be in conflict with our anti-donation clause.
Give me a minute.
Okay. Was there something else? Was it basically that?
Mr. Mayor, Council, yeah, the village can't give grants no matter the charitable purpose of the grantee, nor whether it's a good idea. It's something we all support. It violates the anti-donation clause, as the mayor pointed out, of the New Mexico Constitution. programs like this are often done as an agreement by which the entity that you might think of as the grantee would actually provide services. But yeah, I wasn't prepared to present on this either. But there were a couple of things in this as far as the village playing a defining role. I know that it speaks of food security and community health. Beware of what you ask for. You can provide 100% food security by raising the minimum lot size to 5 acres. And everybody who lives in Corrales would be able to afford all the food they want. As far as community health, the village is a statutory municipality. It has only the powers granted to it by state statute. And it has very limited role to play in community health other than what our EMS function provides and the good things that Tanya Latin provides to us. Yeah, I think it's anything that requires an expenditure by the village under this resolution would be questionable under the state constitution. But the village can support in non-monetary ways programs like this. It just cannot be required to expend any money in reliance thereon.
Mayor?
Is this, just a second.
Okay.
Tess, is this a 501c3 now?
Mayor, council, yes, it is a 501c3. It's been organized. We have a preliminary board of directors. I'm on the initial board. We're hoping to have a general membership meeting and another board, hopefully. Well, some of us will probably stick around, but I know some of us are board members to get this up and running. Currently, I do not think that there's an intent. I didn't draft the resolution, but I don't think there's any intent for the village to give any funds to this 501c3, but maybe perhaps to act as a fiscal agent or something if they were to obtain grants. So,
Which we could do. We've done that with the Indigenous Hub.
right, exactly.
And so if there's no objection, I really wanted to see what Sam and her group had to say, but we would like to kind of rework this.
I think that would be, I wasn't really planning to speak for
You're not their legal representation.
No, I'm not. I'm spread very thin with volunteer duties, as you can tell. But no, I said I would stick around. Sam had to go and there's nobody else that could attend tonight. But I do think that if I personally think we would be open to working on a draft resolution that would be sufficient for the village's purposes.
It might not be a resolution, but perhaps we might do some kind of would it be an MOU with the 501c3, much like we.
Again, it doesn't matter whether it's a 501c3.
But anyway, some kind of relationship, because many of the things that are in here, the village already does. It's just that there were some things in there that sounded too much like we were providing some kind of an economic benefit, which might cause us to be in conflict.
And that was not the intent. I do not believe that was the intent of the language in the resolution.
Yes, sir. Oh, wait, no, Murray had a comment.
Yeah, my question would be then, if we build a facility, could we lease it out to them?
Yeah, it could be rented. You can rent it, yes.
We've been, we went through this with the DFA local government division probably 15 years ago up in Rio Rancho, and they've got a whole, it's based on a memo that was done by a Santa Fe city attorney like 30 years ago. But basically, yes, you can build a facility and lease it to them as long as you do an RFP and let anybody come in to bid on leasing it, and they basically get absolutely no economic benefit from it. It's ridiculous, but it's the New Mexico Constitution.
But if we were to build, a nice facility across the road and they came back with a $1 lease,
it's going to take more than
that would violate the donation clause.
I'm just saying, if they
it has to be fair market value.
And it also, you also have to open it up to other entities who would want to bid on it. So that's where the RFP comes in.
So there's
They get it for
other,
$3.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
so there are other possibilities that are out there. And one is, they're trying to redo a facility, renovate a facility that existed in Bernalillo sometime in the past. And there is a couple who has a food truck and they've decided to take this on. And I haven't heard from them lately, but it looked to me like the more people they got involved, the better it would be. And Bernalillo is not that far. We could certainly show, I wanted to show some interest to kind of, make sure they kept us in the loop. Because I think that's the better possibility for us in our situation. Somebody had a comment. Yes, sir, Councilor Mier.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, there's a piece of legislation up in the session this go around. I don't know how well it's going to do, but it's going to alter the anti-donation clause so that this will be
Even more reason to put
even
it
more-
on.
But at the present time, I'm grateful that you're willing to understand that you're not going to take an offense if we back off on it. Because I think what we're talking about is different between a bill and a memorial that we would normally have up in the legislature. Memorial doesn't guarantee anything, doesn't grant anything, but acknowledges the existence of and the support thereof with the use support, not meaning monetary or otherwise. So it doesn't mess with the anti-donation clause. But on words like promote the economic
Yeah.
viability, I mean, that one, it could be a dollar for dollar kind of situation or whatever that might be. And then the other one as well, incorporate the conservation, we can do that. That's something that normally is done under the situation, but to increase the capacity for your own, there's some things over here that we just probably cannot commit ourselves to do. And if you don't mind, we take a look at those words. There's other pieces of wording that you might really enjoy more than where you put those right now, because those front words are the ones that make us put us behind the 8 ball, whether or not we pass this. And you say you didn't go out and do that for us.
Right.
So
No, and I think tonight we were expecting there to be consideration and discussion on, and I was actually thinking a memorial would probably be better. And I am also not up to speed on the exact language because I didn't draft it, but I said I would sit here through the end of the meeting and answer questions. So I think what we're looking for is a cooperative relationship with the village and support.
There has always, I
yeah.
believe, been a cooperative relationship between at least the growers market and the village. And, this is probably just an extension of that. The growers market never was a 501c3. They never, when I was the manager, we looked into it, but it was just something we didn't have the wherewithal to do it. And because we didn't have a firm fix on who was going to show up every Sunday. This has been 20 something years ago. So does anybody have anything else they want to say?
I mean, speaking for myself, and I think everyone, I think we have an appetite to agree very much to the general principles on this and to support them via some form of formal recognition. We just have to make sure we're not being held to something that we can't back up either legally or practically.
Yes, understood.
Yeah, a resolution is, I think, would be the appropriate vehicle, but just to clarify again, whether a grantee or is a 501c3 or a regular for-profit TD show club, doesn't matter regarding the donation clause.
What do you say?
Well,
I'm just saying.
Man, you got my attention.
Well, that was my.
They're going to make hamburgers too?
Yeah, I gotta say, I've heard from men who say that they go there because of the food. And
Yeah. And I had a resident who said that. Oh, yeah, we go there for the hamburger.
regardless, but being a tax exempt entity does not change the analysis. It's still a
Thank you.
private entity.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, do we have a pass recommendation on this? Do we have a recommendation? We don't have anything?
No, this is just discussion.
Okay.
And I wanted to discuss it with them and
We don't need to make a motion then.
no motions needed. Tessa has agreed and I'll put that in the minutes and make sure that way
The love
Sam doesn't
word.
get upset with me.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next, we're hoping that we can look at the comprehensive plan once again, more.
Executive session.
I'm sorry, what?
We have the closed executive session.
Oh, I wrote it down here,
Oh.
but I
Yeah.
didn't see it. Okay, all right.
Melanie's like a
Melanie,
speed bump for us having dinner
you
tonight.
know, she's like your
I know,
mother.
you thought you were getting out of here.
She's
Sorry.
like your mother. I mean,
You know-
it's almost 9 o'clock.
The-
All right.
the-
We're gonna go into closed session.
We need a motion to go into closed session.
I
moved.
move that we go into closed session.
Okay, we have a motion in 2 seconds, or 2 motions in a second.
Okay, and everyone approves?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the meeting recording will be paused.
You sure did. Okay, I need a motion to come out of closed session, please.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by, oh, let me say this. We just coming out of closed session, no decisions were made, no votes were taken. And there's something else, wasn't it? There's some,
Oh, the
In
matters
SA
discussed were pertained to only those as noticed in the notice for
agenda,
closure.
that's it.
Yeah.
And NMSA something, something. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're out of closed session now. So now announcements for future agenda items. We're going to talk about the comprehensive plan. We're going to discuss the comprehensive plan. You'll have, and you can go look online now. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. But you can look at the comprehensive plan with the idea that, think about this as I told the committee in the beginning. I wanted it bullet points. I wanted it 25 pages or less. I wanted it so people could read it easily and it wasn't complicated. And it's none of those things. It really, initially, it didn't focus that much on land use. The planning and zoning people have gone through and they've focused more on land use, and they've taken out the mandates that somehow made it into the comprehensive plan. The administration did meet with the comprehensive plan committee 5 times.
I believe so.
And every time, when we looked at all those boards, we put the red marks in the places where they put their mandates, and they ignored those. So they continued to use the same plan. And so it wasn't like we gutted the plan. It's like we've been saying all along, you know, this is not a good comprehensive plan. So I'm not trying to make you change your decision in any way, but I just want you to think about that as you look at it. And you'll get an opportunity to look at both of them. Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, from the past plans that I've seen, there have been goals, objectives, and policies. And that was the 3 criteria which the comp plans have been designed around. And I'm just.
Okay, well, think of those things.
Yeah.
And realize that what we asked them to do was to go through in the places where they were mandating things, say, make goals, make suggestions. These are our suggestions how you reach that goal, not you will do this in 2 years. And what happened is that the way it was worded, some of the people who work here in the village, they felt like this, is their job going to be held to these mandates? Are they going to have to get this done? And if they didn't get it done, would they be, unemployed? And so we thought that was an unnecessary stress to the system. Also, we are not allowed, as we've talked about in the past, to push too much to the next council. Does the next council then have to say, well, I don't agree with this? Does that mean, I'm not going to be on the council? So are they going to be held to that? Are you going to sit there out in the audience when you're doing your questions and answers and say, how do you feel about this? I mean, and also, I think I'm jumping around a lot, but also there's guidelines that are important. And I'm not sure that we're following them right now when we're talking about issues about open space, So, I can't imagine we aren't, but we aren't, but perhaps not. Bill, you had a
I
question.
just want to mention that there will be a work study before the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting tomorrow night here.
Correct, 5:30.
5:30 to deal with the comprehensive plan. So.
Yeah. And then because they don't have a whole lot, I think they're going to continue when they finish.
Yeah, if they don't get everything decided during the work study, they'll come back to it after their items.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
on the agenda.
Yep.
What you will see is a comprehensive plan as written by the committee. And then you will see a comprehensive plan with modifications, red lines, so you can see where the changes were made. Okay?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
May I? The issue of binding future councils is not merely political. It's not merely, well, if we don't do the things they told us to do, we're going to get voted out. It's a violation of the New Mexico Constitution and the Bateman Act, which has been a New Mexico law since before statehood, and that basically says that the municipal governing body cannot bind future governing bodies to expenditures. That what you decide among yourselves and with your due legislative process, you cannot require future councils to do things. You can only resolve to do things that are within your budget this year. And so it's not just a political matter, it would be a violation of the state constitution and the Bateman Act as well, which there's a lot of developed law on it.
So if we expend money for a project, but that project's going to take 3 years and it happens to fall into the next council,
We have to have that money. We have to have that money sort of in the pipeline.
Right. Which is one of the reasons you bond for
3
the
years
project.
in advance.
Well, that's sort of what you have to do. I mean, that's theoretically what you have to do. And what that's sort of been the problem with the capital outlay.
Right.
Is that you can't piecemeal projects like
Right.
you did, because what if it comes up and some council says, well, we don't want to do that. And so you want to try to fund it all. And that's why we try to have all the funding together. Think about what we have done in the past, where you try to cobble together different funds, different places, different grants.
So Mayor, this is a conversation we probably ought to have later, but you're right. We need to put this on the agenda and then have a discussion.
Okay. We will do that. Anything else you want to put on a future agenda item? You're getting tired, Stuart, I can tell.
No, I still got to go home and feed my wife.
How are we going to deal with the ACD on the 28th?
So on the 28th, my suggestion is it'll be on the agenda because we said it would.
Right.
If in fact you read the ACD and you think it's in conflict with the comprehensive plan, if your opinion is it's in conflict and you don't feel comfortable voting for it, then you vote the way you feel. If there's enough indecision and someone makes a motion, I want to put this off another 2 weeks, like Councilor Murray did a couple of times, then you can do that also. But we want to do it. We don't want it to just fall away, and because you talk about a committee that did a lot of work. There's a lot of work in the ACD plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
But if we feel that it is not in conflict,
then you vote for it.
and we can go ahead and do
It's
that.
not in conflict, but that's my opinion.
Yep.
No, you guys have your own opinion.
Okay.
That meeting, I'm gonna have dinner beforehand. I don't anticipate us being out of here. Very.
Okay, so since we've finished with the business of the village, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
Just so we're finished by now.